So Rare Exports is a film from Finland, and wow, can you tell, especially at times. This was released in 2010. This is a holiday Christmas fantasy story, and a really popular one that I heard of about 5 years ago, but one that I definitely wanted to watch at Christmas time for at least the past 2 years, maybe even three. But I finally found it streaming, and I got the opportunity to watch it, and this film is very strange, especially after the ending, because there's a lot of like I loved the film for its production and for being so unique. This is one of my favorite Christmas films and certainly buyable. It's one that I will want to have on my shelf. But it's so strange and it crosses these lines when it comes to its plot. It's so mean spirited at the end, especially like when we're talking the final 5 to 10 minutes. Let's say 5 minutes actually. This film gets mean spirited, and a lot of people say that Bad Santa was one of the most mean spirited Christmas films ever made. And when I say this film is mean spirited, I don't mean in comparison to Bad Santa. It's in totally different ways. There is some weird things that happen, and there's some questionable uh, treatments of, let's just say, the elves at the end of the film that I obviously will get into. But I'm just rambling on about this film left me kind of in shock, I would say, but in a good way as well, because, like I said, it's something that I really haven't seen before. I don't recall anything that I can compare this film to. This takes a Christmas story, not the movie A Christmas Story. This takes a story taking place on Christmas and flips it completely on its head. I mean, we've got an evil version of Santa Claus in this film, but absolutely nothing like Krampus or anything like that. Totally different folklore of the you know saint, I guess you could say. And yeah, many different directions. I mean, leave it to a Scandinavian film to completely flip the traditional Christmas story on its head, but I shouldn't be surprised. But where this film went, I kind of am at the same time. This is distributed by a company called Oskill Scope, which every time I see this production company logo on any film, I automatically know that I'm going to get into something unique because they do distribute a lot of foreign films. One of my favorites from Brazil is distributed by them as well. And I've seen this logo pop up, and like I said, when I do, I'm like, well, I'm going to get into something interesting for sure. So it's cool to see that. What happens at the beginning of this film is half, well, I wouldn't say half, but it's mix of English and Finnish, mostly Finnish. But you do get your English speaking parts here and there. At the beginning of the film, there's this crew, and they call themselves Rare Exports, and they're basically archaeologists, explorers, and they are in search of something on this mountain called Korvatunturi Mountain in don't know which town or which city in Finland, but it's a small town because you get a big community base, and it's one of those towns where everybody knows each other kind of thing. But there's this massive mountain, and this crew, this company, is digging in it and blowing shit up and all kinds of stuff. It's an archaeological space kind of thing. And then you're first introduced to this kid. His name is Pietari or something like that. He has a friend named Jusso, and Jusso and Pietari are hanging out together on this mountain, and then they're kind of hiding, they're kind of spying and trying to figure out what is going on and what these people are looking for and stuff like that. They realize that these people are blowing shit up, so they're obviously in search of something. But this kid he's a curious kid. He's a young kid. He likes to explore and whatnot. He has this pet stuffed animal that he carries around on a leash. He calls him Vupe, and Vupe is like it's some furry kind of toy or something like that. I don't know exactly what it is. Kind of looks like a dog, but it doesn't look like it has a head. Kind of weird, but he carries this around everywhere. And at the beginning of the film, he's also reading this book that gives a different, more dark and sinister story of Santa Claus and the history of Santa Claus. And this kid is a believer. Like, he believes that this Santa Claus is real. And like I said, it's a more vicious take on Santa Claus, and there's even a scene where he says the whole Coca-Cola Santa Claus is fiction, and the actual Santa Claus is this not not evil, well, kind of evil, but like just a much darker saint, or whatever you want to call it, being, entity kind of thing. And punishes kids a lot more and stuff like that. But very different from Krampus. Like, this Santa Claus is not a monster necessarily. It does have horns, but I don't know. It's just it didn't remind me of Krampus at all. It reminded me of a different kind of lore when it comes to Santa Claus. We're also introduced to this kid's father, and the father's name is Rauno. And trying to pronounce these names just by how they sounded in the film when I was watching it. But Rauno is he hunts reindeer, and he has a crew of friends that also hunt reindeer, and they sell meat. They basically hunt game, reindeer, carve them up, and then sell the meat. And he's been struggling for a bit, and he wants to he has or he had this group of deer that they were going to go hunt, but then what happens is all these deers are completely slaughtered because this pack of wolves ended up coming into the caged locations where these reindeer kind of roam around. And when they get to this caged location, really big location, but it's fenced off, there's a hole in the fence, and they notice that wolves got in there, and there's this whole like slew of reindeer just eaten and bitten to death and all that. So they calculated about $85,000 that these deer would be worth completely if they were to sell them, but they're all rotting corpses now. So he's about to lose a shit ton of money and has absolutely no idea what to do. When the father Rauno figures this out, he decides that he assumes that it's probably this crew that has been working on this mountain and digging up this mountain, that because these town folk don't like that this foreigners to them people are coming in and like messing up the whole area and just causing destruction kind of thing. So his automatic assumption is to go after these people kind of thing. So throughout the film, we start to figure out that we learn that the lore of this Santa Claus, back in the day, he was lured into this lake of ice, or the frozen lake of ice, and then by the townsfolk or whatnot. He fell into the ice, and then the next day, the whole lake froze over and he froze to death. And these people somehow carved this block of ice that hid Santa Claus, and buried it under a pile of rocks. We're talking like hundreds, maybe even thousands of years ago or whatever. And they covered this ice block in sawdust so the ice wouldn't melt, and just piled a massive mountain of rocks to keep this entity buried, kind of thing. And this is the lure that was in this book that this kid is reading. So this kid believes it, and obviously with a film like this, it's gonna go to a place where the story is true and the legend is true, and everything that comes with it. This film has a great atmosphere of Scandinavian kind of culture and scenery. The locations of the film are really really beautiful, and the design of the house that Rono lives in with Pietari, the fireplace, the walls that are made of brick and stuff like that, the outfits, the what do you call it, the costume design, you could say, very, very well done. It just feels very atmospherical. It feels like the country that it's taking place in, and it's visually stunning to look at. I really liked not just the cinematography, but the set designs as well. The kid Jusso, Pietari's friend, has the meanest mullet you've ever seen. Straight up mullet. It's absolutely hilarious. I laughed at that. So as the film goes on, one of Rano's friends finds this body and comes over to Rano's house. And Rano's already stressed out, but he brings this body. He's dressed up as Santa. This friend of Ronald's. The friend's name is another hard one. Piparintan. 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 I'm just gonna go with that. And he's dressed as Santa because he has a Santa gig. He dresses as Santa for, I don't know, some event or something like that. But he finds this body, brings it to Rono. They take it to this shed of some kind, and they start to study the body. They originally think it's dead because it's like cut up and not moving kind of thing. But the body starts to slowly kind of, you can like, they start to notice that the body's not dead, it's still alive. So that whoever this guy is, they ID him, and they ID him as Brian Johnson, and assume that this guy is part of the crew of this rare exports company that came in. And then there's another scene involving Ronan and I believe the town sheriff and another friend of his. He goes to their house, and there's a lot of comedic moments in this film too. This film does it 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 has a lot of again, very different kind of humor, not things that you would see every day, and just a whole different aesthetic of even in the humor department, but along with every department. It's not even black comedy, I would call it. It's just, I don't know. It's a different type of comedy. But they go to this guy's house, and this guy apparently he's a potato producer or seller, and there's a pile of potatoes on his property, but no sacks of potatoes. So somebody or something is stealing the sacks of potatoes, and then this guy, who I believe is the sheriff of the town, mentions that everybody's house apparently had their radiator stolen. Like every house in the town had their radiator stolen, and then the other guy mentions, oh, that's weird. My wife just lost her hair dryer as well. So something is weird, things are disappearing from people's homes in this town, and nobody can explain it because it's the most random things. But there's there's this part where the young kid Pietari, he starts calling his friends, and it's mentioned that Pietari jeez, Pietari and Jusso made that hole in the fence to where the wolves came in. So they're the ones who made the hole when they went to investigate that company that was digging in the mountain. And Pietari starts to feel guilty because he notices that his friends, the young kids, are being taken and disappearing, and he figures that it's this evil Santa that they dug up from this mountain that's kidnapping these kids for being naughty or whatnot, and he thinks that he's going to be the next one. And he goes to Jusso's bed, his friend Jusso, and there's this wooden doll in the like underneath the blankets kind of thing, and it's got like Jusso's hair and everything. And he runs over to the sheriff with this doll, and he's like, "Jusso's missing, and I found this underneath the covers of his bed." And the sheriff, or yeah, Jusso's dad is like, "Oh, he's probably just out hunting girls. When I was your age, I used to put stuff under the blankets to make it seem like I was still asleep in bed and just go out at night chasing girls." I'm like, just that's your conclusion. That's your conclusion for seeing this dog. It's like, oh, whatever. He's just chasing chicks. He's like 12 years old. Whatever. Just shit like that. Like really kind of dry humor in a sense. I guess that would be the best way to describe it. Back at the shed though with Pipar Piparinan with this old man who they suspect to be Santa Claus eventually. The friend gets bitten in the ear by this old guy, and this old guy eventually comes alive, and they bring in an interpreter, one of the friends who is able to speak English, and he tries to communicate with this old guy, but this old guy is completely frail. The design on these people too, like with when it comes to the elves and the Santa and the way they look, like this guy he looks so frail. He has this huge beard. He's kind of scary looking, and he doesn't move. He's like kind of a statue when the interpreter is trying to get information out of him. And at this point, they don't really think it's Santa. Obviously, they just think it's still a worker from this rare exports company. So they're trying to get information, and then they get a call on a walkie-talkie, and on the walkie-talkie, there's this person saying, "Hey Santa, are you ready for takeoff?" And then they come to the realization that this man standing in front of them is likely Santa Claus and likely has been buried in this mountain and dug up, and now they have Santa Claus standing in front of them. So they get this brilliant idea on holding Santa Claus for ransom and holding him because they assume and they know that the person on the other line wants Santa back, so they ask for 80, or the Ronin, the father, asks for $85,000 to give Santa back the $85,000 to cover for the loss of the reindeer that they lost because he has a bunch of debt to pay off and whatnot. And then the other guys are just, they want to raise the price for, like, ask for 1 million at least, not just 85,000, but he sticks to 85,000. And then they agree, and then they transfer Santa Claus. They put Santa Claus in a cage. This is where it starts to get mean spirited. They put Santa Claus in a cage, and then they drive him up to this base that this company Rare Exports is their home base or whatnot. And then they bring Santa. The guy that was on the walkie-talkie asks where the cargo is and goes to see this guy. And then it's revealed that this old guy is not Santa, but one of Santa's helpers. And we get an attack on these vicious brigades of other older guys with like axes, and they all look like barbarians. Like they have these axes and these just these like medieval weapons, almost like Viking weapons, and they're like sprinting and running. They almost looked like the zombies in 28 Days Later, or the infected for the the zombie snobs out there. Not that they're vicious and biting anybody, but just their barbaricness and the way they run. They run like an army of elves. So we got this army of like evil, mean, vicious elves, and then we have who we thought was Santa ends up just being another elf, but Santa is revealed, and then it's mentioned that the reason why these elves, and it was the elves stealing everything, was taking all these radiators from people's homes and one hairdryer. I laughed at that too because there's this slew of radiators, and then Buddy mentioned one hairdryer being missing. Maybe they took more hairdryers, but that's the only one that he mentioned. So I just found that funny how there's like hundreds of radiators and one hairdryer to defrost this massive monster. And they reveal Santa Claus. Santa Claus is huge, huge. Like one of Santa Claus's horns is as big as a car, and he has two of them. And then it's just this massive, massive monster. Like we're talking, compared to a person, like we're talking 50 to 60 foot tall. In this block of ice, and this block of ice is massive, and it's just surrounded by radiators trying to melt this thing. And then this is where the young kid Pietari becomes the hero, and he comes up with this brilliant idea where the kids who were naughty, all his friends, Jusso and all these other kids, are in this base because they were kidnapped by the elves for being naughty or for whatever reason. He knows that the elves are not going to leave this location if the kids are still there, so this kid decides to put all these kids in sacks, which I found a little uneasy because I'm a claustrophobic person, and I can only imagine being like tied up in a sack and then airlifted by helicopter, which is the kid's idea. Putting all these kids in like this, some kind of net or kind of thing like that, while they're all like inside these potato sacks or whatnot, airlifted out of the place, and then taken to somewhere else so the elves could follow. And then he discovers all these crates of dynamite too, so the adults stay behind in this building, this base, whatever, and start to load the ice by drilling into it and sticking it with a shit ton of dynamite to blow up this Santa. And the film just ends pretty much with them murdering this monstrous Santa Claus, but not really necessarily explaining any evil that this Santa has done, because it's been buried for thousands of years, or this Santa Claus has been monster thing has been buried for thousands of years. So there's no backstory on any bad things that it's ever done. But they decide to kill it anyway because it's a monster, and the lure of Santa Claus in this whole film is portrayed as like an evil entity, nothing that is wanting to give gifts or anything. So their mission is accomplished. This giant Santa is destroyed, and then the elves are basically left out of a job, and they basically don't know what to do from there. By the way, the elves are when they march in their like barbaric mode, they're all in the nude. So you got these old men running down in the snow, dick hanging, and they're just running with like axes, and they're all freaking naked. And can you have an actor be a grown adult actor be fully naked in front of a child? Because there's scenes, not only I understand when it's cut back and forth, like nude people kid, nude people killed, you can easily do that, but there's one scene in particular where there's the old man completely naked and the kid in the same shot. So I'm like, can you even do that? I don't know. That one took me by surprise. I was weirded out on that. But regardless, yeah, these old barbaric elves have no clothes, and they're just sprinting at the characters, like trying to protect their giant monstrous Santa Claus. It's pretty funny. But yeah, so when Santa Claus is destroyed, these elves have no reason and no purpose anymore, and the adults again come up with this genius idea, and this is where it got really fucking dark and mean spirited. They want to rehabilitate these elves and train them and make them make presents and then ship each one around the world because I think they compare these elves to the deer. So the kid's like, there's 198 new Santa Clauses. How much do you think each one is worth? And the dad's like, $85,000 each. How much is that, Jusso? Apparently, Jusso's a math genius. So Jusso's like, about 16 some $1 million. So they come up with this number. It's like $16.8 million for all these Santa Clauses to turn them into basically present making slaves, because that's how they portray it in the film. These old men are they're old as shit. They're frail as shit. They're spraying them down in showers with nude again, spraying like dirt off of them. They're making presents and they're sewing dolls or something like that. And then you got the dad and his friends like walking behind them like soldiers. Um, One of the old men tries to open a present and he gets smacked in the head, and the guy's like, nothing there for you, old man," or something like that. And I'm just like, holy shit, this is like they're slave driving these poor elves. This is dark. Like, this film got dark. Not only did they kill Santa Claus, although Santa Claus was an evil giant ass monster, but now they're enslaving these old elves and then shipping them like in boxes. One of the final scenes is one of them dressed in a Santa suit, and then they put a a piece of wood to cover a crate and nail it shut, and then nail a piece of paper on it that says Zimbabwe, Tanzania, and that's where you have this whole slew of crates, and each one has this new Santa Claus inside of it, and they're shipping it all over the world, and then the credits roll, and the title says "Rare Exports," and then it says "From the Land of the Original Santa Claus," and the movie ends there. Wow, that's dark. Like, not only, see, it's brilliant because it's such a unique idea, and again, I could never imagine of a Christmas tale told like that, but at the same time, it's so freaking dark. Like, let's just enslave all these old people, make them Santa Claus, and make money off of them. Touchy subject much? That's rare exports, all right? I really had an experience, to say the least, with this film. I love discovering shit like this because I don't like watching the same shit all the time, obviously, and I like new discoveries. I love foreign cinema. I love foreign cinema, so any chance I get to watch something from around the world, I'll take it. And like I said, the locations were great. It felt like a Scandinavian movie. The acting overall was okay. The kids were all right, like for being kids kind of thing. And the fantastical elements were cool. I really liked the idea of these like vicious elves. I liked that a lot. And the idea of the giant Santa Claus with horns, although you didn't get to see it too much. They even cut the horns of the Santa off before they blow it up, just so they can make money off that too. So these people are greedy bastards, and there's not really too many good people outside of the kid who came up with the idea of like destroying the entity, I guess. But in general, there's not too many like good people in this film. It's an oddball of a movie for sure, but I still enjoyed its uniqueness, I guess, and that's pretty much how I can how I can leave it. Like I said, I would buy it. I recommend watching it. Watch it first. Um, if you haven't seen it yet and you've stuck around for the spoiler review, you already kind of know what you're gonna get yourself into. But I would buy it. I would have it on my shelf as a Blu-ray because this is one that I would be watching, if not every Christmas, every other one. And this is definitely a film that I would want to show people. 100%. So that's my take on Rare Exports: A Christmas Tale from Finland. And wow, wow, that's my final thoughts. Is wow. There's another comedic scene too that I forgot to mention when just before they get the call on the walkie-talkie, one of the guys speaks English, the interpreter that I mentioned, and the guy's like, "Tell him to stay where he is. Tell him in English. Tell him to stay where he is." And the interpreter is like, "Down, boy," like talking to him like a dog. Again, mean spirit. It's awful. Okay, I'm done with rare exports. That's my thoughts, and make up your mind for yourself if you want to check it out. But stream it first. It's on Tubi. That's how I watched it. There's a lot of Christmas films on Tubi. But yeah, go buy it. I'm buying it when I can, and I'll give it a thumbs this much up. How's that? I gave it a 4 out of 5 on Letterboxd, specifically for its uniqueness. It would have gotten a 4.5, maybe even a 5, if it wasn't just so damn mean spirited. But I still gotta like sit on this one, I think, because I did watch it tonight, and maybe a second viewing I'll think differently, or maybe just sitting on it for a few days I'll think differently of it. But we shall see. Yeah, that's Rare Exports. So subscribe to Morgan Film Fan if you like to listen to my voice, or if you like my film reviews. I'll be back with more. There's lots on the channel. This month is going to be packed with Christmas films, obviously. So stay tuned if you're interested. And until next one, have a great night. Take care and cheers.